nerds, to another episode of the Nerd Rundown podcast, where we cover the latest in the nerd world of movies, TV, and music. I'm one of your hosts today, Darren Stemple. That's my co-pilot, Eric Hare.
Hello.
And that guy over there in the blue shirt, he's the third pilot that kind of just sits behind the other two pilots and just pretends to be busy, listening to the outer marker. Big Morg 3000.
Hi, everyone.
We have a very, very special guest host today, the man who composed our awesome intro song, Jason Sparks. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks, man. It's awesome. I'm super excited to be here with you guys.
So, we want to give a huge thank you to everyone for watching and listening in. You can find us on social media and YouTube at the Nerd Rundown, and you can listen to all our podcasts on all the major podcast services. And a good shout out to Hey Would You Blow Me last week, Eric. Thank you.
Yes.
Giving good old Hey Would You Blow Me.
He's a good dude.
He's been here since the beginning, and we love Hey Would You Blow Me. So we need more Hey Would You Blow Me all the time. Okay?
Yep.
Before we get into the setup, as we do when we have a new guest host on the show, we like to talk about what kind of nerd they are, as this the central premise of the show is we're all our own nerd in our own ways. So Jason, tell us a little bit about what kind of nerd you are.
Probably primarily adult cartoons. Like not that kind of adult cartoons. No, but it's like
Hey-o.
All right.
That's all I have to
Bring
say.
on the
Thanks.
tentacles.
It's going to be that kind of show already. Sweet.
So many tentacles.
We get one F word. Okay, we get one F word.
Yep. It's PG-13, so we're all right.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so the obvious stuff like South Park and Family Guy and that kind of stuff, but also some of the more obscure stuff that kind of isn't really on like the main radar. I watch a lot of, I don't know, things like there's an old show called Clone High that I really liked. It was kind of mostly like the cast of Scrubs, and they only had one season, and the whole premise was just a silly thing with like scientists digging up the dead bodies of old famous people, cloning all of them, and now they're in high school together. It was ridiculous. So it was like Abraham. I know, and they had all kinds of weird guests on there, like Marilyn Manson and Jack Black, and it was interesting. But that's really it. I mean, I pretty much constantly am watching cartoons when my wife isn't stopping me.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, as per usual, we have a fantastic show for y'all today where we'll cover the latest on the rundown. For our special segment, since we have a real live musician on the show, we're going to talk music and cinema. Not only will we be talking about one of Eric and I's favorite nerd departments, music scores, but we'll be talking about all kinds of music in movies and TV. We've got we've listed out top scores, top three scores in our own opinion, top three soundtracks, which is obviously different than scores, and then the top three scenes where the music just kind of blew us away and gave us all a little bit of a Loki bunny. So let's get into the rundown. First on the rundown, started us off early in the week with this trailer. The Book of Boba Fett trailer was released. First thought, real quick, for me, loved it. Man, I cannot wait for this show. Give me more Boba Fett. This Mandalorian spinoff show and The Mandalorian, they really, really, really feel like the extended universe Star Wars, and not so much the trash sequel trilogy that 7, 8, and 9 was, in my own opinion. But let's start off with the guest host on the show and get his thoughts real quick, Mr. Jason Sparks, and then you can pass it off to Eric when you're done.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man, I loved it. Anytime you get to watch some low-key gangster stuff going on in Star Wars, it's always cool. I mean, watching him, the whole layout, right, is just him becoming the crime boss, right, taking over, and that's super exciting. Plus, I've always been a really big Boba Fett fan, and now like they're giving us actual reasons to justify that fandom.
Right.
I mean, other than like he looks super, he's awesome looking. You know what I'm saying? But so yeah, I mean, what he did in Mandalorian, his actual fighting skills that you got to see make this something pretty exciting to see. I think. Can't wait to see what happens. Eric?
Yeah, agreed. The trailer looked incredible. What they're doing with the technology that they're doing and how they build the sets and stuff is phenomenal. And at the end of the day, the really cool thing about it is these are like not real high budget deal, like they're able to tell some really cool, and I actually like that. I think it forces them to be more creative and to focus on story more than these gigantic $100-200 million budget machines that they churn out just garbage, exactly like Darren said earlier. So I think forcing them to rely more on their character development, rely more on, creative ways to get around stuff. I thought the trailer looked incredible. I'm super excited to kind of dovetail off what Jason said, to see, Boba Fett, when we first saw him in Empire Strikes Back, you get a very small taste of him, but his armor was like, holy smokes, like that looks super cool. And then when we got a little bit of him, in Return of the Jedi, and then of course you think he buys it there, to have them resurrect him out of that, and then to go back to the original, not the original trilogy, but one, 2, and 3, where they kind of were like, oh, he's a clone, or everything's a clone of him, and I'm like, they're gonna salvage this character from the destruction that George Lucas tried to heap on him, which is, he like really destroyed, I thought, Boba Fett, like in that 1, 2, and 3 series. Like I don't think he did him justice at all. So now that we're getting this, I think we're salvaging him from the depths of George Lucas's attempt to destroy it. Morg, what about you?
I'm excited. I like anything that's kind of mob gangster related, crime lord family related, whatever you want to call it, mixed with Star Wars. So, I mean, how can it go wrong? And, it is funny, like Jason pointed out, like, Boba Fett everybody loved him, even though like he really do, he wasn't quite that big of a part of the realistically, as far as what he did action wise and things like that. But no, I think it's going to be good. It looks like it's going to have some good action at the right spots, but I think it'll have a good story, and I'm interested to see what they do with it. And I mean, if it's anything remotely close to what The Mandalorian was, it's going to be good.
Hell yeah. It is really fun. That was a great point, Jason, because it really was like, why is Boba Fett so, popular among the fandom, and now we'll have a good case to build for that question. And this show's really going to cover the underworld of Star Wars, which I think is so cool. It's going to be a Godfather type story where he's it's all about the gangsters and the mafia, like you said, Morg. And Star Wars had a show back before Disney bought them called Underworlds, and it was all about the underworld gangster mafia type dudes in that world. And so I think they took the premise of that show and they were like, Boba Fett, you're a good person to do this for. Mm-hmm. And they must have really liked the premise, and maybe not necessarily at that time it was the best time to release a Star Wars show, and timing is everything. So I think it was good that we didn't get it then, and now we're going to get it now. Now we're going to get it now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It comes out December 29th. So going to be overlapping with the Hawkeye TV show. We'll have a lot to cover on the rundown towards the end of the year. Next on the rundown, and this is another show that's probably going to overlap with that because I think it releases. We don't have a release date yet, but it's rumored to release in January. We finally got like I wouldn't even say a full Stranger Things trailer, but an actual. It wasn't just like a scene they were showing. It's an actual trailer for Stranger Things season 4, titled Stranger Things 4. I'm just as big of a Stranger Things fan as anybody. It's really hard not to put it in my top 3 best scorers. But when I was talking with Jason about what we're gonna do for the intro song, I told him I love the Stranger Things music. So can we try to model it up around that and take some inspiration? So I'm gonna go to Eric now. Eric, what do you think of the Stranger Things trailer?
Yeah, looked really incredible. I think Millie Bobby Brown is just the cutest thing ever. She really is. So
talented. She's so talented.
Yeah, she really is. So my son Jack is a huge Godzilla fan, like he watches a lot of the Godzilla stuff, and so I see her quite a bit in the Godzilla movies and everything, which is good to see her kind of branching out into other things and not just kind of pigeonholed into Stranger Things. But getting back to the trailer was incredible. She looks adorable. It looked really funny. There were some really funny bits in there with her and just being that awkward teenager stuff. Right. They continue the theme of nailing everything 80s perfectly, like just the stuff that they're doing is just period perfect. The way the neighborhoods,
early 90s,
yeah, it's late 80s. Yeah, I think it's probably late 80s, but you could see like the way the neighborhoods looked, the cars that are there, just the little stuff, the skate castle place that they're at, or the skate Rama place that they're at, these are all things that you did in the 80s, and it just looks amazing. It really does. And then of course we get a little bit of taste of the action that'll be coming along and the weird stuff that goes into it, but they really didn't dip into the stranger part of the Stranger Things. So I'm kind of curious as to where we'll go there. But you know what, frankly, in the first 3 seasons, they have not disappointed me in the stranger part of the Stranger Things stuff. So I trust that it's going to be just fine. So I don't need the taste of that to really get excited for it. So yeah, Mork.
Yeah. I would say with the Stranger Things.
Sorry, I can go to Jason if you want, if you're not quite ready.
No, I'm ready. All right. I need to word it. So I'm trying to word it so we don't get hate. No, I don't know what to feel about this upcoming season yet. I mean, everything we've seen looks good. I like this trailer, like you said, with the whole awkward teen where she's talking to Will about how great things are, and then you see her going through it. It's just not like that, and
right.
All that. But I just don't know what this season is really about. Like, because we had that horror house trailer. This trailer where it's like the awkward teen and then some explosions. We had some teasers where, we see a little bit of stuff, but there's no real clear, what are they doing? Where is everybody? Are they still in the town? Are they all different places? What's going on with this one? I'm going to watch it, of course. I mean, I'm going to watch every episode of it, and I'm looking forward to it. I guess I just wish I had a little more clarity of
good point. Good point. This was so every trailer that's been released or seen, whatever it's been released, it's had 001 out of 004, 002 out of 004. This was 004 out of 004. So I don't think we're going to get any more trailers. Honestly, from Stranger Things, I don't think we need to even know what the plot is. We kind of get it. The Upside Down is going to get their revenge somehow. What do you think, Jason?
Eric, I have to agree with Morgan and Eric. There's not any peek into the strange part. I mean, it's nothing more than it looks like a weird teen, spring break thing that's about to happen, and the military shows up, right? So I don't have any clue. Of course, to bring the music in, since it's a music episode. We started writing all of our music completely outside of that show being released, and I love the show. but part of me kind of hates it because everything that we do is this very 80s like synthwave stuff, right? So like anybody that hasn't listened to that genre before, all I ever hear is, "Oh, you guys sound like Stranger Things." And I'm like, yeah, no, that's it. Like, and a part of me's like, good, you have like something like a reference point so you can like get in, you know.
They sound like me.
Yeah, right. But that's exactly what happened. We did it first. But they another music thing. So Millie, Bobby Brown, the adorable, a music tie-in. I guess she's officially dating Jake Bon Jovi, John Bon Jovi's kid.
How old are they?
I don't know. They're under 18. I'm pretty sure. They went Instagram.
No, they're adults.
It's you put it on Instagram, man. I don't know.
Once it's on Instagram, I think it's legal, right? Like,
official.
For some people.
Sure. Don't use that word. Go with official.
Go official, not legal.
Cry. I think it really is interesting, maybe a bit strange that they didn't show any stranger things part of it, you know. But we're all invested in it, and
I'm gonna watch it, every bit of it.
They could just release it without a trailer, and it'd still be one of the biggest shows out there. So
you're right. They don't have to actually show any detail of what's going to happen with it. They just had to let us know it was coming, and I'm okay with that, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, Stranger Things coming on, great! I can't wait. The biggest thing for me, like the biggest whoa, watching it is how much the kids have grown. It's insane.
Oh yeah.
Like Will actually doesn't look like a weirdo kid anymore. He just looks like a young adult, and even we've seen Mike in the Ghostbusters trailer stuff, and he looks super old. So there's just a bunch of gangly teenagers now, and it's really crazy. They were going to do a New Year's theme for this season, but COVID happened, and I'm assuming that they had to, or maybe even presuming that they had to rewrite a lot of the season, and now they're going with the spring break theme. They've had a Christmas theme, a Halloween theme, and a 4th of July theme. So they like to have that kind of theme throughout their show, or throughout their seasons. And this one, we love spring break. How do you not love spring break? So next on the rundown, really great trailer was released for out of the clear blue, an upcoming I almost said horror movie, an upcoming Christmas movie starring Doogie Howser himself. The movie is called 8-Bit, and it's a movie about a dad telling the story about the release of Nintendo back in the day in the 80s. And just like Stranger Things, it looks to have it looks to be hitting all the nostalgia points in it. And I'm going to pass it off to our video game nerd, Morgan, to talk about this first. Morgan, what did you think of the 8-Bit trailer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pumped for it. I love a good Christmas movie story to watch, something that you can watch with the family. I'm always looking for that next Home Alone movie that it's just going to be big and something everybody wants to watch. The trailer cracked me up. I mean, I was laughing the whole time watching that kid. He's been in a few things on Disney Plus, the main kid, and he always plays that kind of goofy, awkward kid. And I mean, I think he's going to do a great job in this. And watching him try to get this Nintendo, it's going to be good. I think it'll be good. I'm excited to watch it, especially it's coming to HBO Max. So the nice thing about that is there's certain movies I call theater worthy, and I don't think this would be a theater worthy movie. Yeah, but I think theater, I'm like, big screen action. That's why you go. This would be a perfect sit down at home with the family. Yeah, grab some hot cocoa and watch this movie. I'm looking forward to it.
With some whiskey in it.
yeah. And it's fun because I'm excited to watch it too with my son, who he's going to be asking a lot of questions of well, why are they doing that? What is this? Right. They want that piece of crap? Have they not seen a PlayStation 5?
Yeah. So, Jason, what do you think about it?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, I love Neil Patrick Harris, first of all. It had what's her name? June Diane Raphael. She was I mean, the main thing I know her from is, was it Year One, that Jack Black, Michael Cera movie? Anyway, she's funny. She's a really funny lady. And then Steve Zahn, I think it's Zahn, right?
Zahn, yeah.
Yeah, Zahn.
Yeah, that guy's gonna be in there. And he's amazing too. I mean, he's just a good guy. Like, did you see Strange Wilderness with him?
Yes.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies.
Yeah, he's so good. He's good in everything he does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's good.
If he brings any of that to this movie, on top of the 80s nostalgia, and on top of the fact that, you know, you get Neil Patrick Harris, and I'm assuming they're going to end up throwing in a bunch of awesome 80s music. Man, I can't wait. Plus it does actually look like something I can watch with my kids.
Yeah.
The last several Christmas movies that I've watched, the newer ones were not kid appropriate. You know, it was stuff like The Night Before with, what was it, Seth Rogen and
right. Christmas Party.
I was thinking
the newest ones that
bad Christmas movies are there.
they're great movies. They're not to watch with your kids. So yeah, this is gonna be cool.
That's a great point. I thought you were going to say they were adult
cartoons.
Adult cartoons.
I mostly watch adult Christmas movies. Somebody gets
So like Die Hard.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
That's the
Adult
adult.
Christmas movies. Santa showing up, forgetting the presents.
Eric, you're the older of us all, so you really
I lived through this era. I was, I think, probably NPH's age when, or at least what they're kind of thinking about. So I think in like 88, 89, I was 12, 12 years old or something like that. So maybe this guy's even a little bit old. I'm a little bit older than that, but I can remember the Nintendo craze that came, when the NES came out, it was bonkers. And I spent many days and hours with my buddies in front of that NES playing, Super Mario Brothers, playing all that stuff. It was just amazing. So this one has my nostalgia needle pegged at like 12. So and again, looked like they're doing a pretty good job of the nostalgia, like getting the period stuff correct. I really think I'm getting old when they start, when the 80s are way back, and you're like, God, I was a kid in the 80s. Like, how can they be making movies about the 80s and like, and have it be like, but I guess it's a thing. So we're there. And I did hear something the other day they were talking about, because they're getting ready to come out with a new series on the Wonder Years. And with Dule Hill as the dad, which I'm actually pretty excited. I love Dule Hill. So, but the interesting thing about it is, like, if you look back in time, when the Wonder Years originally aired, it was closer in time than we are to right now. And the Wonder, like, if you were to set the Wonder Years in the 80s, it's actually further back than in time then. So I was like, oh man, that's crazy. So because I felt like in the 80s when we watched the Wonder Years, I felt like it was so long ago. Like, I was like, gosh, that feels like so long ago, and now it's like nothing. But yeah, the trailer looked amazing. To reiterate, Steve Zahn is, and Neil Patrick Harris is one of my favorites. NPH is just a great. He's got great comedic timing. For a guy who started out really on a drama show, he's really he's really moved into kind of the funny roles that when he gets that opportunity. But Steve Zahn is just a criminally underrated comedic actor, and so I'm excited that he's going to be playing the dad, in this one. So that looks pretty great. So all in all, yeah, I think it looks pretty good.
More Steve Zahn for me, please. He's great in White Lotus. He's so funny. Now moving on to maybe a little less exciting news, or less exciting piece of the rundown. The Morbius trailer was released. This is a movie that was actually first intended to be released before Spider-Man No Way Home, which came out in summer of 2019. So it's been delayed like crazy. The first trailer for this movie was released more than 18 months ago, and now we're getting the second trailer. So it's got a lot of baggage already with it. It doesn't look good. It looks like if this came out in 2001, 2002, it would be okay. Like it would be part of that era. It felt like, you know, Black Leather, X-Men, or Daredevil, Ben Affleck's Daredevil. It just didn't get my hype up at all. What do you think, Jason? Morbius trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm excited about it. First of all, I don't really know a lot about the origins of Morbius, and on top of that, it has this look almost like it's like back in the 80s, like like Aliens kind of effects, but not in the way that makes you feel nostalgia. It more makes you like wonder how they made the movie look so bad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, that's really my only take. I mean, I've only watched that one trailer, and I don't really have a whole lot more to add to that one.
That's it?
No, that's it.
Eric? I know you didn't like it.
Yeah, like I said, the first 30 seconds of it, it's clearly a movie set that they're on, you know, like the helicopter where he's walking away from the helicopter like with a cane or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's clearly a movie set. Like, what are we doing here? Like, can we at least try and I'm sure this thing cost $100 million to make. Like we couldn't do better than this. This is bad. So, you know, Jared Leto's a super talented guy. I'm not like a super fan of his. I don't, you know, I mean, he's been good in stuff, and then in other stuff, I feel like he overacts, and just I don't. I always feel like Leto, like it's forced with him. Like it's just a forced. I don't know. Everything feels forced with him. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel comfortable, and I don't know why I can't.
It feels like he's acting.
It does look like he's acting. It just it always, like, I always feel like he's, at least in some of the stuff that he gets. Whereas I look at it, to contrast that with a guy who doesn't get any credit for being a pretty good actor and actually is Shia LaBeouf. Like he's a super weird
LaBeouf.
LaBeouf. He's a super weird method actor also, in that he like really immerses himself in it. But I gotta tell you, man, when I watched Fury with Brad Pitt, the tank movie, I didn't even know it was him for like 5 minutes into the movie. It took me 5 minutes into the movie to figure out that was Shia LaBeouf. I was like, holy smokes. Like it just never, he just was so different. And so I look at Shia and I think, okay, you know, like he doesn't feel as forced. So back to the trailer, it was bad. But I gotta ask you. So I gotta ask you, because Keaton's in it, you know, which I was like, okay, well, can Michael Keaton save this movie? Probably not. But he's good. He's really good. But let me ask you. So, because is this an MCU movie? Or is this outside of the MCU? And so is Keaton's character the same dude from the Spider-Man? Because we're okay.
So
I don't know. What are we doing here?
The best thing I've heard about this movie is it's Sony. It's in the Sony Spider-Man universe, which is like Venom. So Venom is kind of, you know, been its own separate thing. But recently, Marvel Studios and Sony must have made a deal where they said, yeah, we found a way that we can successfully combine the universes. And at the spoiler alert for the end of Venom 2.
Big spoiler. Very big spoiler.
Big spoiler here. Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. The mid-credit scene, spoiler alert. Okay, you've had your chance. The multiverse kind of happens, and it snaps Venom into the MCU. And so now you can start seeing the Sony Spider-Man universe crossover with the Marvel Studios universe. And so I think that maybe part of the reason why this movie got delayed so much is because they said, okay, we're doing this, and now we need to include it in the MCU somehow. So yes, Michael Keaton's Vulture character from Spider-Man Homecoming, it's the same guy. But also what you're seeing Easter eggs galore from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe. You're seeing Easter eggs from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe and from the Tom Holland Spider-Man universe. So it's playing with that multiverse, and we're gonna see how that all starts here very soon in Spider-Man No Way Home, and cannot freaking wait for that. I believe we're getting a trailer for that this week, because apparently there's word that we're getting an official poster tomorrow, which usually is preceded or after that we get a trailer usually. So going back to Morbius, yeah, this is in the MCU. I am Robert kind of thing. Yeah. So it's, I'm hoping that Marvel isn't making a mistake by letting in the rejects, Mark, what'd you think?
So I'm at that point where I don't know if I want to watch it, just because I don't know if it's actually going to be important or not, right, because of this whole confusion of what is it. Because like you said, I mean, he walks by that poster of Spider-Man the Murderer, but that's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Yep. You see the Oscorp building from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
It's actually a different Oscorp building, but it was the only Oscorp building that in any Spider-Man.
Right. You got Michael Keaton. It's just I don't know, like,
logo from
I don't know if I need to watch it or not, or if I'm going to watch it and they're going to do things in it and then just never explore it because of whatever the deal is with Sony and right, Disney at the moment. And you know what? One part that really got me, like Eric had his helicopter scene. Mine was the I am Venom at the end. And I was like, I was like, what is that? And I'm like, so now we've established, I didn't watch the second Venom. Yeah. But I'm guessing Venom's a household name now, that everybody knows it, for him to actually go, I am Venom, as if he has seen Venom in action. Right. So it's just another thing where it's like, what are they doing? Like, why are they? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll probably end up watching it, but not in theater. I'll wait till it's on.
The Bat Radar was my cringe moment. Bat Radar, that's not where it's going. And he was supposed to be some super smart doctor. Anyway, he's a vampire in the Spider-Man animated series. He was not allowed to suck blood out of people, so they gave him suck holes. And if anybody knows me, I have a real problem with bumps and holes, and the suck holes on the hands were just. I think I forever hate Morbius for that.
Something about having suck holes just sounds awful.
Yeah. You guys
that's part of the adult animation.
Yeah. Is that the adult was that an adult cartoon you watched?
It was an adult cartoon for sure.
Jeez, you guys caught so much detail in that one trailer.
Right. Last on the rundown, we finally get some really good news about a movie we've talked about that was announced. It's cast 2 things already, but in the past week they cast 2 more really big names. So Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer movie is it full on in pre-production right now, and they're in the casting phase. They already cast Cillian Murphy as the lead, as Mr. Oppenheimer, and Emily Blunt as his wife, Catherine. So right there, I'm hooked with Chris Nolan and Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt. A lot of people don't necessarily like Cillian Murphy. He's kind of a weird-looking guy. He's the lead in Peaky Blinders. He's Scarecrow in the Dark Knight movies.
8 Days Later.
He was in Quiet Place Part 2. Anyway, I like him. And I love me some Emily Blunt, so I'm already down. But now joining them are Robert Downey Jr. and Matt Damon. So, and I'm sure Michael Caine will be in there at some point too. But holy crap, what do you think, Erica, about this cast?
Cast-wise, looks incredible. Nolan, he always does such a great job. So, having his Bobby De Niro, Cillian in there, I think is going to be pretty good. Emily, of course, is amazing. So, and whatever she does, so that makes me pretty excited to see that. The Robert Downey Jr. and the Matt Damon stuff, I'm curious how that's going to go. You know, I mean, RDJ, I have no problems with him. You know, and Matt Damon's a fine actor too. So I'm curious as to who they'll play. I'm really kind of curious as to all the scientists, you know, the famous scientists that were involved in the project. I'm curious to see who they cast in certain roles and things like that. So I'm curious if RDJ is going to be like a like Fermi or maybe one of the other, you know, physicists and stuff. So that'll be pretty interesting. Killian, I'm sure, will deliver the "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds" quote at some point, you know, after.
I have who they're playing, if you want to know.
Oh, you do? Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Lewis Strauss, the infamous Atomic Energy Commissioner who initiated hearings that questioned Oppenheimer's loyalty to the United States.
Right.
While Matt Damon will take on the role of Lieutenant General Leslie Groves, the director of the Manhattan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. I could see. That's a tough one. Those are some big shoes to fill. Because in previous stories of, you know, telling the tale of the atomic bomb, Groves was played by Paul Newman. So that's kind of a tough. It's a tough shoes to fill for Matt Damon, sure. but I think he'll be all right. But so I'm curious as to how they're going to do the. I'm curious as to how they're going to do the tale. You know, whether or not they're going to go through the presentation of the bomb, or whether it's after the bomb and you know his. The accusations and stuff of him and stuff. So yeah.
I have the log line. You want the log line too?
What's that?
We have a first log line for the film.
Oh, okay.
This is what it says. It says, with Universal describing it as an epic thriller that thrusts audience into the pulse-pounding paradox of the I can never say this word. Enigmatic man who must risk destroying the world in order to save it. Sounds awesome, I guess.
I mean, it's Nolan. I'll see it for sure, and I'll see it in the theater probably. So, I mean, even without looking at it, with that cast and with Nolan directing it, you know, I'll most likely watch it. So,
yep, for sure. Mark, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be good. Everybody there is a star that does a great job of what they do for a living, their craft. I think Killian is a very underrated actor. I like him in everything I've ever seen him in. I think he's done a good job. There isn't anything I've seen him in that I was like, oh, why was he in that? Yeah. Robert Downey Jr., of course, you know, he's fantastic. And then Matt Damon, again, one of those actors that, yeah, I mean, he's done some bad stuff, but he's a phenomenal actor. He does a great job. I will say, though, I can't help but I'm a little tainted when it comes to Matt Damon ever since Team America. You know, I can't help but always hear that. You know, like Matt Damon. Poor guy. But no, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I love those type of movies. I love anything involving World War II. So, right. I mean, and it's Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. Cool. Jason.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it's always cool to see something that important historically be told. And the cast is going to be great. Killian is, I mean, I think that the characters that he's played have shown me that he's got that ability to be weird enough to play a physicist, which I mean, interesting folk, you know what I mean? So for sure. That's gonna be cool. I don't really, you know, I'm not a big Robert Downey Jr. fan. I mean, he made Iron Man, but beyond that, you know, he hasn't really done it for me. And Emily Blunt is one of the most charming people on the planet. So, I mean, there's no way I'm not going to see it with, you know, the topic, with what we're going to actually get out of it. Hopefully some accuracy would be something I'd like to see from it. You know, Matt Damon. It's Matt Damon, right? I love the dude. So, you know,
Just poop potatoes.
yeah, I mean, I don't think I would ever have loved Matt Damon as much as if he weren't in all of like the Kevin Smith movies.
Oh yeah.
Like, it took it. I don't know. For me, it took him in a place where he was like a funny, real human being.
Yeah.
You know, because most of the stuff earlier there were more serious roles, and you know, then he was Jason Bourne, and he's like all these things, and so to watch him just be a really, really silly, ridiculous character, well, to play himself in that way was really cool. So
Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever seen? This reminds me. Have you ever seen Euro Trip? The movie Euro Trip.
mhm.
Yeah, Scotty doesn't.
His cameo at the very beginning of the Scotty doesn't know. You know, we talk about music. I mean, he
Right.
plays the quintessential rock star guy. You know, he's got the piercings, and I mean, it's just like
Oh, they come on, he played Loki.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big fan,
Yeah.
bro.
he's a powerhouse actor. Robert Downey Jr. is a powerhouse actor. So for them to sign on to this movie as not the leads, I think is interesting and shows that they're reading this and thinking, I want to be a part of this. So
Right.
I don't need to be the lead. And I think that's a good sign for everyone involved.
Yeah, I just don't want to see like another Pearl Harbor happen.
Well, it's
And I don't mean the historical. I mean the movie.
hold on. I mean, I love me some Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Also, I do understand that there's a fine line on that movie, but also this is not Michael Bay. So
Yeah.
Chris Nolan's
I'm hoping.
vast.
I'm waiting for the scene when Killian's just like, I'm dropping that bomb myself. Hops in a plane, flies over.
Yes.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Anyway, that's the rundown. Great stuff. Big stuff. Looking forward to a lot. Morbius. So we'll see. All right, we have an actual musician on this show, so we're going to talk music and what music means to Jason. We can't wait to hear about that. And then you know, you're watching movies and TV shows, and if they didn't have great music, is it really that good? You know, is a good question to ask yourself. So let's start off before we get into our list. I want to hear Jason. You know, if you've heard the show before, I like to kind of talk about the why behind stuff and what does music mean to you, Jason?
Man, let's do a whole podcast.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, I
You
think
have 10 seconds. Go.
Okay, so I think probably the simplest way to put this is, I mean, for me personally, I mean, it's something that matters so much that for most of my life, I was willing to put everything else to the side and pursue that, despite, you know, the potential pitfalls that come with being a musician. I looked out, and my life still ended up like pretty good, but I mean, you know, you live a different life. You're around a lot of people. You lose a lot of people because it's kind of a rough space to live in. I mean, unless you're a classical composer, but I mean, I'm sure there's still quite a bit going on there too. But really, it's just it's the one thing that makes me feel like me. If I'm making music, I'm myself, and that is, you know, something amazing when for a lot of life, you don't really get to genuinely be who you are because there's too many social things that you gotta make sure that you handle correctly. You got to go to work and behave accordingly to get through the day. And if I could sit down and work on music, even, you know, 5-10 minutes a day, I'm a different person, you know, I'm happier, I'm better. So in short, that's what it means to me.
That's pretty freaking powerful, if you ask me. I mean, it say something like, you know, it's something you're willing to sacrifice things for. That means it's something that's like deep inside you. So appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
I got a little ocean in my eyes.
I appreciate
right.
you asking. Thank you.
So when we think about music in movies, we've talked a lot on this show about music scores. We haven't really delved into the other kinds of music in movies, and so there's the music scores. There's like your your orchestra playing the music, and then you have your soundtracks, which is like real music in the movie. And then there's also times in movies where music just takes over, and it's like you can't picture the scene without music. You can't do anything because the music is just like, man, it chills down your spine. And so we're gonna talk about all those three kind of things. We're gonna start off with movie scores. Kind of want to talk about that first and get that out of the way before we get to the other stuff. But I want to start off with Jason, with being the guest host on the show, and tell us what your top three favorite movie scores are.
Sure.
And
we'll just run through all three of them.
Yeah, just run through all three of them.
Cool.
We set some parameters for this. It can be both movies and TV. It could be, it doesn't have to be a single movie. It could be a set of movies, like a trilogy of movie, whatever you want. But go ahead, Jason. Let's hear your top three movie scores.
Sure. Yeah. This one was one of the hardest ones for me, I think, mainly because I listened to every single episode you guys have put out, right? And I know
thank you.
Well, yeah, I know where you guys kind of sit with like the genres that you like watch. Yeah. And so for every single one of my lists, I intentionally tried to get a little bit out of your lane. But with this one, it was really, really hard because I mean, there's only a few composers that really stick out and only a few films. So, in short, I tried to figure it out, talked to a few people, talked to my bandmate, Joey Cave, and actually got some input from my mother-in-law because she is incredibly into classical music and was a music teacher her whole career. Nice. So
we should have her on.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah.
Way to mess up.
Yeah, totally. But shout out to them. So, I mean, I ended up picking for my third one is going to be Hans Zimmer. And it's going to be from 2010's Inception.
Okay.
And I went with the song Dream is Collapsing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it has a nice mixture of some kind of like clean tone electric guitars and orchestra, which is pretty cool. Also had to go with John Williams, 1977, original Star Wars theme, New Hope. There was no way to stay away from that, even though I wanted to, because I knew everything. that one and this next one were things I just knew. But my personal favorite composer is Danny Elfman. I love like the whimsical feeling that he brings to most of the stuff that he does.
Very playful.
It's so playful.
Yeah.
And I really like that. And I could have picked any of the stuff that he's done. I pretty much love all of it. And he's very much got his feel too. So there's a lot of it that, ultimately, like, you're not stepping far away no matter what song that you're picking. But I went with Batman 1989, the original theme. I almost went with the Simpsons theme song. I couldn't do it, man.
It's your list, dude. It's your list, man. Yeah.
I couldn't let myself do it. I wanted to. Not Batman.
I love your top three, Jason. Yeah. First of all, we're gonna have some crossover stuff, but it's is Danny Elfman a Colorado native? I feel like he is.
I have no idea.
Something to look up. Either way,
we'll cyberstock.
The Movies That Made Us has a Nightmare. Yeah, the Nightmare Before Christmas episode that just came out, and it talks about the no pun intended here, the inception of Tim Burton and Danny Elfman's relationship and how they've been partners throughout time, and it's really cool to see. So I highly recommend watching.
I'll watch that one.
And you love your 80s horror movie.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet at all. Not one episode. So
got some great stuff to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good.
And clearly I'm gonna love your list. What do you think of his list, Morg? Since out of all of us, I would say that movie scores are like the least thing out of, because Eric and I listen to movie scores all the time. Yeah, Jason's an actual musician, so I'm excited to hear what your feedback is.
Yeah,
and your list too.
Yeah, Jason's list was pretty good, and there's I mean, stuff you brought up that I was like, oh, geez, I didn't even think of. I was like, oh man, yeah, because I like music.
Let me be clear.
Let me be clear. I like music, but I'm coming into this as a very simplistic generalist. Like, you talk specific songs and scenes. I'm going to talk movies I watched where I went, I like the music in this.
Yeah.
Because it really heightened the music, but I couldn't name the song they called it or anything like that.
All good.
So
you're a simple man.
I am a simple man. And this was actually very hard to narrow down. I think I wrote like 10 things down here. So my number 3 for me was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, good one. I love that.
I'm a very big fan of that score. It's just awesome when you hear it. It's very distinctive. You know it. You're like, oh, all right. So that one.
Good. It feels piratey too. It's like
it does. Like you feel like you're on the ocean with them.
Yeah.
Klaus Badaltz. It's the original one is so good. It's so good. And my kids are listening to it right now because Jackson just watched the first one the other day, and then now Amelia, we just watched it together with Amelia, and so now every morning on the way to school the kids are listening to, and this is how nerd stuff flows downhill to the kids. Like both like we're not listening to kids bop music, we're listening to the Pirates of the Caribbean on the way to school. And like last week it was the Jungle Cruise, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've totally nerded my kids. I've turned my kids into nerds.
It's the way it should be.
Number 2, Jurassic Park. Again,
John Williams.
Just another iconic. Yep. And number 1 for me, this was tough going through the list, but it's a new one. Dune, the new Dune.
Oh yeah.
That was number 1 for me. Something now again. I saw it in IMAX, so that could be swaying me a little bit with the extra sound and how big that is. But something about that score in it and the way they do it with just all about it just really was just, and it stood out to me. It really drew me into the movie even more.
Yeah.
So that took the number 1 for me.
Interesting. Let's get the musicians' feedback on that list, Jason.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, yeah.
Clean and simple.
Yeah, dynamite drop in there, Marty.
All right.
He gives it an official. I like it.
But that's what like that's what music is, right? So how in the world could I argue with the perspective of it felt good or I liked it? Do you know what I mean? Like, because that's, I mean, like if you're a musician, you're thinking in different terms sometimes, but the reality of it is like all you're doing is connecting with people in a different language, right? So if that connected with you, that's awesome, man. And those are great movies too. So like I'm 100% man. Right. Great list, dude.
Thank you.
The Jurassic Park theme is something I think you could play worldwide and people would be like, that's the Jurassic Park theme.
Yeah.
And that's when I feel like you've made something that connects everybody. That's something special. So
John Williams just
does that all the time. I mean, Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at so we can thank maybe Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Well, you could really thank Steven Spielberg for bringing for bringing John Williams to the forefront, because he and Steven Spielberg and John Williams worked together on Jaws. And when George was I'm looking for a composer, he said, "Oh, go talk to Johnny. Go talk to Johnny, and he'll get you situated." And so you have Jaws, Star Wars, and then it's off to the races for John Williams. And every theme song for every major movie franchise for the next 20 years is John Williams. It's Superman, in 1980. So you get Jaws, Star Wars, Superman, Indiana Jones, E.T., Jurassic World, Harry Potter, Goonies. Everything and John Williams' influence over movie music cannot be understood. Yeah,
I can't believe I didn't think of Harry Potter. That's seriously some incredible music.
Yeah, I mean, you could play those. You could put a stadium full of people and play any of those theme songs, and 90% of the people in there are going to go, oh, and you're going to know it instantly.
Right.
And if you do the same thing with a Beethoven, a piece of Bach or Beethoven, you wouldn't be able to do it. But you could get people to listen to classical music if you put it into a movie. And I think, and most people will even know. What movie that's from, but you get to listen to people who are playing the bassoon, who are playing the cello, who are playing the violin, and so when kids go, I don't really want to play this, you look at it and go, look, there's practical, like people playing this music. And I think Karen and I we took the wives one time to go see Star Wars at a live playing of Star Wars, where they played the movie, so you had like the voices. Yeah, we went and saw The Empire Strikes Back, and they had like the orchestra was playing the music live, and it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. So you got the voices and you got the soundtrack from the movie, and you could hear that, but all of the music was being played live in front of you and by a full orchestra, and it was just spectacular. And we both said to each other multiple times, you can't even tell that you're not that it's not a laid down track. Like they just were so perfect with everything. So
you guys ever hear that happening again, let me know. That sounds incredible.
Oh, you should look in your local. Are you in Denver, or you're?
Yeah, I'm right outside of Denver.
Okay, so yeah, the Colorado Symphony Orchestra does it. They used to. So we went and saw Love Actually. I took the wife to see Love Actually, where they played that, and they did all the music for the movie through the orchestra. It's really great, and
awesome.
So yeah, we'll definitely.
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's pretty incredible.
It's pretty awesome. What's your list, Eric?
Yeah, well, so I'll start off with my list, but I first wanted to say to Jason, thank you very much for putting together the theme song for the Nerd Rundown, because it really, I loved Jim Hall's stuff that we initially selected for the first couple of episodes. Jim has that really cool 80s kind of sound to him as well. And I still, when I edit the podcast together, I still listen to the song at the end. I still listen to that almost all the way through every time I put it together. I'm like, I just think that, that Wanderlust
same thing.
Yeah, that Wanderlust song is just great. So I listen to your song at the very beginning every time, and I listen to that one at the end. And I don't like listening to my own voice, so I skip over my stuff as much as possible. But I do love listening to that theme song. You guys did a tremendous job, and I just want to say thank you. I know everybody else really appreciates it, but I just wanted to say thank you to you and your team. I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is an incredible opportunity. I think it's really cool to work with something like this. And I ended up. I don't know that I would have even known about this podcast without Darren and I kind of linking up on Facebook over us doing music for it. And I mean, it's in rotation every week for me. I love listening to you guys. It's awesome. So to be a part of something that I didn't even know I was going to love and then fall in love with it is even cooler. So
it's great, man. It's great.
That's great. And I remember, just to kind of add to that, first time Eric and I were about to record episode 4, A New Hope for Podcasts, which I think is still one of our best episodes, Eric. It's like one of it's like if the Turning of the Tide episode for us, and it's one we always kind of reference when we're talking about a good starting point for
right yeah.
And we were about to record it, and Jason, you sent me the file, and we listened to it, and I didn't even know if it was the finished version of it, but it may have been the one where it was like the Nerd Rundown. And either way, Eric and I sat there listening to it, and we were just like, that's the shit right there.
Yeah, right.
Like, instantly fell in love with it, and you guys did that. We just were like infinitely in love with it. Debt to you. So
yeah. it's really been spectacular. And, getting a chance to kind of edit the logo together and do some different stuff on my end was kind of fun, to add the little glitch in the thing to kind of coincide with the way your sound goes and stuff. And it was just, it was really cool. It just really, you guys did a great job. You really nailed it. So,
thank you.
So, yeah.
Bingo.
So my top three scores, and this is, if you're a score guy, this is really hard. This is this is the worst case scenario. Like, you're asking me to pick like I have 7 children and you're asking me to pick the top 3, and I'm like, geez. I mean, the number 1 is pretty easy. Everybody knows the number 1, so but the rest of them, so and I'm still struggling with it. So James Horner's Star Trek II, specifically the battle in the Mutara Nebula track, but really the entire score for Star Trek II, I think, is just phenomenal. And it was James Horner's first score that he ever did, and just tremendous. He went on to have just an amazing career. Unfortunately, he was, he died sooner than we would have liked, but Apollo 13, the aliens stuff, he's actually snuck into the Die Hard movie. That's the best part, the very last scene with Al and John McClane, when they are hugging each other and the bad guy pops up one last time. That track is actually stripped out of Aliens, from the Aliens soundtrack that James Horner put together. But yeah, so Star Trek II is just amazing. God, this one's really hard. So it's a toss up for me between, because I had to put Hans Zimmer in here somewhere. So it's a toss up for me between Gladiator and Interstellar, between these two. Like, I feel like top to bottom, Gladiator is amazing, with Lisa Gerrard's vocals in it. Just top to bottom, it is just an amazing score. But Interstellar also, to me, is just one of the most amazing. But I have to say, from a complete, like, end to end, and I think something that everybody else would really enjoy, I think, is probably the Gladiator. It's more traditional. So the Gladiator soundtrack from Hans Zimmer is really, really amazing. And then finally, for me, I'm glad you said Star Wars, because I actually went with the Imperial March from Empire Strikes Back as my number 1 top score of all time. Like, you can load that one into any stadium in the world and everybody's going to go, like, I mean, you hear it playing at college football games all the time when they're on the go. It's great. So, but yeah, so those are my top 3s. I had to go with John Williams, I think.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure I had my top 3 guys in there, which is James Horner. But I don't want to. There are so many really great composers out there that really deserve. And like I said, this is kind of asking you to pick your top 3 kids. It's just really, really hard. So, but Darren, how about you? What do you think? I guess what do you guys think of my list? Probably some of you guys probably know, but
yeah, complete garbage.
It's a joke. Get out of here with that.
I didn't think you were serious. What's your real list?
When's the real list?
your number 1 there is my wife's number 1 also.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And she was like, that's the one. She's like, that is one of the most recognizable pieces of music on the planet. And I was like, it is, and that's why I don't want to put it on here.
Right.
So she gets to laugh at me for doing that.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, and to kind of coincide with my list, there's some crossover, but my number 3 is the Inception soundtrack, or score too, as well, and specifically Time.
Yep.
The song Time. I think it's maybe the most beautiful piece of music ever created for movies. I mean, it's just one of those. It builds and builds and builds, but it's still like mellow in a way. It's an incredible piece of music, and one that I will never get sick of hearing.
For sure.
If it had I wish I could like have it as my alarm, but I would probably just stay asleep. So that's my number 3. Number 2, I had the Game of Thrones score in here, but then we made the rule no crossovers between and I have something down the road for Game of Thrones. So I threw in Lost because the Lost soundtrack by Michael Kino is incredible, and we've talked about it a lot on the show, so I don't need to spend too much time on it. But anytime they're on a hike, and Eric knows this, there's a certain song that we play, and it's just like, or that they play, and it's I can't do it, but Eric could probably do it better than I can.
That's pretty good.
It's the Lost theme.
It's not bad.
Just captures every scene it's in. So it's number 2 for me. And then number 1 is the Lord of the Rings score. I think it's the greatest cinema score of all time, and enhances every scene, every single scene. There's not a scene where it's just like, I could skip this song. It enhances every scene. So that was by Howard Shore?
Yes, Howard Shore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I confuse Howard Shore with James Horner, but Howard Shore did the theme for that, and it's incredible. I mean, there's some, like you said, Eric, I love that you said this because it's perfectly, that's a perfect analogy. Pick your favorite kid. Dark Knight. I mean, that's a score that will forever go down.
Yeah.
There's some certain scores that just will always be.
Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, Duel of the Fates is incredible. So, what do you guys think of my list?
I am shocked that you had Lost on there. What are the odds? I didn't even know you liked that show.
Shut up, Morgan. You've never seen it.
I love Michael Giacchino. I think, you know, it, and again, cutting him out of stuff is really, really challenging because he brings a different style to scores than other guys do, you know. So I love that you put it on there. I got married to a song from Lost. You know, when they asked us to put music beforehand, you know, the guys like, what kind of music do you guys want to play during the you know, while the people or audience is being seated and stuff, we can play music in the background. And I said I wanted No Place Like Home from Lost to be played in the background, you know. And I just think it's one of the sweetest and if not the saddest pieces of music, you know. It's
perfect
like
for a wedding.
It's like, well, because she felt like home, you know, like, and so it was to me, it was perfect, you know, like it was exactly what I wanted because you have that, you know, there's and I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but that's how music, that's the beauty of music. That's the beauty of music, is that it takes you on these emotions. Like, yes, the movies take you on these emotions, but sometimes if you just listen to the music alone, it can take you on these emotional things where you have like this sweet and this, you know, right. but then it'll take you to this sad spot, but then it'll bring you back and you can be hopeful, and just music is just so beautiful in that way. And a lot of the times, we've said it before, there are pieces of music in movies that have no business being in that trashy of a movie, you know, and so they'll take a movie and make it so much better than, you know, like I don't think there's any instances where I could go, you know, that movie was great, but the music just did it. The music trashed it for me. Like I would never go see that movie because the music was so bad. But there's a lot of times where I'll go to a movie and go, that movie was so bad, but the music was spectacular. You know, like it was really, really good. Right. So I don't know, but yeah, it's just it's kind of crazy, but yeah.
I think you put it perfect. Like home. That's a good piece to put there. You know.
Yeah.
Feels like home. I love it. All right, let's talk about soundtracks. Different than scores because it's like real music or I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, let's talk about real music now.
I guess you're about to get some hate.
Here, right?
None of that fake shit. It's I don't know how. Well, maybe Jason, you can better describe it than I. What's the difference between a score and a soundtrack?
Well, I mean, no, there's not necessarily a difference between the two. I mean, because you can have a soundtrack with scores, but I think for me, like what I did in this part of my list was go with more pop or rock kind of soundtracks rather than constant. Since we had the whole score,
radio songs.
Yeah, more of that. I mean, it's not all going to be that, but yeah, absolutely more that direction.
Okay, well, let's hear it then.
Okay, yeah. So again, like I told you earlier, I tried to stay out of your way, and keep off of all the Marvel movies and keep off of I mean, because Guardians of the Galaxy's got some dude, whatever, right? So,
classic.
You want me to just go straight through it again?
Do it, yeah.
Okay, cool. So number 3 for me is going to be the movie Juno. It's very it's incredibly indie music. The star of the soundtrack to me is this musician. Her name's Kimya Dawson, and she kind of does everything it's mostly just an acoustic guitar and her singing, and she's got one of the strangest styles of vocals I've ever heard. She's not even always on time, and it was weird. Like I don't know that you could in any way call it good music, but back to the feeling portion of it, it's great music. What it felt to watch these two awkward kids going through this incredibly awkward situation of this unwanted pregnancy, and watch them try to navigate that situation with that music going on in the background. It was one of the most fitting things I think I've ever seen. It enhanced that whole movie for me. So that's number 3. Number 2, and I couldn't stay away from this one, is Romeo and Juliet, the 1996 one. So I mean that had, again, it was
Leo DiCaprio.
Yep. So it was again in some ways less about the individual songs and more about what it did for the film. It was such a different thing to take Shakespeare and introduce it into a kind of I don't know. It's I want to call it modern times, but it also was dramatized, and it was a little, it had its own flavor to it, but a more modern space. And then so adding in all the more modern music with bands like Garbage, who were big in the 90s. Butthole Surfers were on there. You couldn't leave that out.
Best band name ever.
Loveful by the Cardigans, it was on there. And probably the biggest musical star of that whole movie for me was the version of Prince's When Doves Cry, but it was sang by this young guy named Quentin Traver, and backed by a choir. And it is just one of the most beautiful things. And they're singing this beautiful, slow choral version of this song while just violent things are happening in the scene, right? And so the juxtaposition between those two things that's I'll always think of that when I think about great music and film.
What's the biggest song from that album?
Ooh, it was probably Loveful.
Oh yeah, by the Cardigans.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. Great pick.
That was it. And then number 1, all right, Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's a favorite. That's a favorite of ours.
Oh yeah.
And it almost made my list. I just want you to know it almost made my list. So that's a great call, dude.
Yeah, cool. But I mean that's dude, it's so rock, and with the whole feeling of this joke of an action film, intentionally a joke of an action film with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. And you just got AC/DC, or Megadeth, Alice in Chains is on there a few times.
Yep.
And then the one not rock thing on there, but it was perfect, was Cock the Hammer, Cypress Hill, which I mean, they were huge at the time.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Right? Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and then Buckethead. I don't know if you know who Buckethead is, but Buckethead is one of the most phenomenal guitar players ever, and he even makes an appearance on one of the tracks on that album. So that for me, like,
Okay.
that's it.
That's a good
The
one.
guy that wears like the KFC bucket on his head.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Buckethead, very well.
Buckethead. He's a huge,
aptly named.
super tall. Yeah. Yep. But that,
All right,
that
good
one,
ones.
that's it for me, man.
You missed Queensryche. Queensryche is on there too, which was a huge '90s.
Yep.
You know,
I think Anthrax,
Yep.
Tesla, like, yeah,
Yep.
there's a lot. Aerosmith is on there. They did Dream On.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great score or a great soundtrack, man. It was so
Right.
great.
So cool.
Great job.
So great.
Mr. Musician with the
That's
deep
good.
cuts on it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go with mine first, and then we'll get to then we'll move to Eric's. My number 3 is the Not Another Teen Movie soundtrack,
Hmm.
which
Yeah,
had,
dude, that's cool.
had a lot of great cover songs on it. Marilyn Manson's cover of I'm now drawing a blank because my cat's meowing in the background like crazy. I'll think of that in a second. But then there was also another great cover, and they're in the movie. They're dancing to it at the end. It's "I Want Candy," and I think it's Sum 41 doing a cover of "I Want Candy," and it's just one of those great movie scenes where they're all with. And they make fun of every other movie, dancing movie in it. When the guy who's actually Ted from How I Met Your Mother, he's like, "You would never know that everybody at this school is a professional dancer." One of those great scenes where it's just like parodies everything, and
Yeah.
"I Want Candy" kind of song, and great cover there. But Marilyn Manson's cover.
Beautiful people.
No, it's a cover of an 80s song. I'm blanking on it, but I'll look it up as I'm talking about my other ones. My number 2 soundtrack is the Love Actually
Sweet Dreams.
No, it's not Sweet Dreams. But my number 2 movie is Love Actually soundtrack, which is both actually a great soundtrack and score. It's got some really great songs throughout the movie that you would hear on the radio, but also the score to it is really helps like compile it into one unbelievable soundtrack. And the one like scene that always like gets me is when the kid, Liam Neeson's stepson's running through the airport and the music's playing, and it's kind of like a montage of everything going on at the time, and such a great musical addition to the scenes. And I know Banana will just, I'm like on a good side now for the rest of the week. Love Actually is my number 2. And then my number 1 soundtrack of all time is The Wedding Singer. Adam Sandler.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, it's just one of the, his song that he wrote at the end, "I Want to Grow Old with You," is good. But then you have Psychedelic Furs, and you have Billy Joel, and you have the Thompson Twins, and all these amazing 80s songs that play throughout the movie that literally enhance that's what music does, is it's supposed to do in movies. It's supposed to enhance the scene. And it's just like the Thompson Twins, "Hold Me Now" is one of my all-time favorite songs. And when he's like walking down the street, kind of sad, and it's just that song, "Hold Me Now," it's just perfect. And he walks up to the window and he sees Drew Barrymore's character, and he doesn't know that she's like saying, "Julia, I don't like it," but she likes Julia. I don't remember his full name in it, but
Mr. Robbie or Mrs. Robbie.
Weird. No, that's not it.
His first name's Robbie, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Robbie. Yeah, I can't think of his name. Yeah.
Good.
Robbie,
yeah.
Robbie and I are so happy that you could make it. Like she's like,
Yeah, she's like in the mirror, like so happy with it.
And Drew Barrymore is just the most adorable.
It's Robbie Hart.
Robbie
Hart,
yeah.
Robbie Hart, and
Julius DeGusta is gonna be Julia. It's gonna be Julia.
Julia. So they actually split that soundtrack into 2 because it had so many songs that were so good on it, and not to mention his song they wrote at the end that he plays on the airplane, but also to start the movie off, he does a version of "Spin Me Around," which is the very first music video ever on MTV. So I like his version probably a little bit better. But Marilyn Manson's "Tainted Love" It's actually a really great cover. Like, I'm not a big Marilyn Manson guy, but he does a really great cover of Tainted Love on for that movie. Also, another great cover on that is Orgy's Blue Monday. So really great soundtrack for not another teen movie. I had an honorable mention of Spider-Man 2's soundtrack, but I didn't want to put any superhero stuff on there. So I don't know. Eric, what do you got for soundtracks?
So soundtracks, I went with what I view to be the originator of soundtrack stuff in TV, which is Miami Vice. I started off with Miami Vice. So I went super old school because like prior to that, you didn't really have like modern music in TV shows, you know, and like the influence that Miami Vice had, not just on music, but on like fashion and like, I mean, all of a sudden, and the wedding singer is a perfect example, you know, like when he opens up the door to the DeLorean that he's driving because he's, you know, Back to the Future, the Miami Vice theme is playing. Like how many TV show theme songs, and he's always dressed like Don Johnson, you know, so it had like a huge influence on pop culture, you know, that the pilot episode has one of the greatest songs of all time, Phil Collins, you know, In the Air Tonight, is from that first pilot episode. You know, they had just some tremendous stuff from like the guys from the Eagles. The Eagles had just recently broken up, so they were all kind of doing their own thing individually and stuff. So you got like Glenn Frey's Smuggler's Blues, which, I mean, anybody plays that song, you'll know, you can hear it, you know. Or Don Henley had the Dirty Laundry song was on that line. And so like each week you would have like these stars, they would have like Tina Turner's Better Be Good to Me is in one of the episodes, you know. So they just had like all these great rock people or pop people at the time, like vying to have their songs put into because it was great advertising, you know. It was great to get their songs put into Miami Vice. So and then, like I said, the theme song was like a top 20 hit on the radio. Like, how does that, you know, this is back before streaming or any of that other nonsense. Like, how does that ever happen? So I was, to me, I was like, Miami Vice had to be on the list. Number 2, Pulp Fiction. The soundtrack to Pulp Fiction was so good. You know, you put the lime in the coconut, you know, there's all kinds of great stuff. They have some really great stuff on that one. Dick Dale
soundtrack of all time, isn't it?
What's that?
Isn't that the highest selling soundtrack of all time?
Oh, it may very well be. I don't know. I just, you know, The Son of a Preacher Man, Jungle Boogie, you know, and then the bit with the girl, you'll be a woman soon, just unbelievable. It just was a really great soundtrack. And I think, you know, when it came out in 94, I had just graduated from high school, and so it was a pretty big influence on me. As far as, you know, I mean, I don't think it left my CD player in my car for months, you know. It's another one just sat in there forever.
A very similar movie to Pulp Fiction that was the highest selling soundtrack of all time, The Bodyguard.
Which is, it's funny that you say that, because that is actually my number one. My number one soundtrack. My number one soundtrack is The Bodyguard. Because, you know, if you can't, like, I realize it's not a superhero movie. I realize it's not any of those other things. It's a great movie. Kevin Costner's phenomenal in it. Whitney Houston is phenomenal in it as you know, as an actress. She was dynamite in every scene that she was in, and then her voice and the music that they put together for that was just, it was banger after banger after banger. I mean, she was in the top 5, you know, number 1 hits. I think there's like 4 or 5 number 1 hits off that off that soundtrack. So for me, The Bodyguard, that was pretty easy. And I mean, Kevin Costner's really the only guy that can drive an El Camino and make it look cool. Like it just, it was like, all right, your bodyguard guy drives a car that's kind of a truck. I don't know what.
Oh
what
yeah, dude, I love that movie. I love when he comes back from the show and he kicks the big dude's butt.
Yeah.
I forget that guy's name, but great movie, great pick, and funny that was a.
So good.
It was a great segue. It's a great segue.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you got for your soundtracks? And you don't have to feel like bad. I feel like we're like hesitant to say.
No, so this was probably the hardest thing for me to pick out of, because there's so much out there, especially, being a dad of a soon-to-be 8-year-old. I see a lot more Disney, Pixar, things like that honestly, they got some banging soundtracks. I listened to Moana on repeat for a long time with my, driving with my son and stuff, and I love every song on it.
Yeah.
But
it is a great sound.
It is great.
And it's a great sound, but it was very hard to narrow this down, because there's a lot out there, like Baby Driver, and just there's so many good soundtracks out there that it was really hard. But so I'll get into it. So my number 3, I had the OC.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's tough, because when you think of a show, I feel like it's a little cheating, because like I said, you're getting years of music that they can have on these soundtracks. But I mean, when you hear that opening California, I mean, everybody knows. And there was something about that show, again, when you're watching it, that's I know stuff, you've watched it plenty of times, the OC. But that's just a phenomenal show, and the way they use the music is great.
For sure.
You should have delivered that with more confidence.
I know. I never would have thought of that. But that is actually, looking back, it's incredible too, because they had such an opportunity to bring in even like new popular music as it's being released into
exactly.
Like literally, some people were being introduced to some incredible artists while watching that show, and I never would have thought of that. Good thing.
Look at that. Yes. Number 2. I am getting into the superhero stuff.
Okay.
For me, it's Into the Spider-Verse.
Still though, that is a good.
It's another good soundtrack. The way they use the music in the movie is great. It's a soundtrack that I'll even listen to. Just like I don't need Carson there. Like I enjoy those songs.
Yeah.
Each song in there is good. So that I would have to say that's my number 2, and it could be a little bit of just the way they use the music in the movie just helps make it better for me.
Absolutely, I know what you mean, because he in the very first scene, I think it is, he's like trying to sing the song. Post Malone song, and he's trying to sing it, and then he's like, no. He can't remember the lines, and he does what we all do when we can't remember the lines.
Exactly. And that, when they're using the song, when he takes that, that final leap, that his like he's Spider-Man now.
Right.
So that was my number 2.
Great.
My number 1, and this is a soundtrack I listen to a lot. I listen to Spotify. They have a whole Spotify playlist dedicated to this. My number 1 is Scrubs.
I love that show.
I love the show. So it's one of my all-time favorite shows, but every song in there it's music that a lot of it is music I've never listened to before. And I was introduced to it in the show, for example, like the Old Surfers. Never heard of them, didn't know that was a band until the show. And of course that, the Superman intro is iconic. And it's every song in there I like. If you go to Spotify, they have a whole bunch of music. On iTunes, you don't get access to all the music. I don't know what it is, some copyright stuff. And if you watch the show on Hulu, which is where it is, it doesn't even have all the original music on it. Again, some people do the copyrights in Hulu. Spotify seems to be the way to go, to where you can actually get all the music from the show. But it's just one of those I listen to. Deanna hates it. She's like, that's things I put on Scrubs. Or she'll get in the car and she could just like start hearing some guitar playing. She's Scrubs. It's like, yeah. But no, that's I think my all-time favorite soundtrack.
That's awesome.
Those are good picks.
Yep, I just added that to my Spotify.
I have the OC playlist on Spotify in my library. So really good picks. And the Spider-Verse is a really good way to throw on the superhero genre. Okay. Last piece of this is top 3 scenes where music just took you over and gave you, just the feels, if you know what I mean. So let's do this one a little bit different. Let's go through, we'll do 3, 2, 1, right?
Cool.
And with, like Eric said, I'm here to kind of keep everybody on track on time. Let's do it a little bit quicker because we got some great nerd questions I want to get to as well. All right, number 3, let's start with Jason. What's the number 3 scene that just took you over with music?
Friend Like Me from Aladdin.
It's a great one. It's a great one.
I didn't even think of that.
Oh my God, that is a great.
Actually, it's so funny that you say that because I had a debate with my wife last night about Aladdin, whether or not Aladdin should be on my list, and I would have done a different one, but it's a great.
Dude,
and both versions are spectacular.
Yeah,
they really are. They really are.
And for me, like the Aladdin's amazing, right? Okay,
Yep.
In my house, one of the top.
It's my favorite. Yep.
Top Disney movie in our house is also. So the thing that I loved, and the reason I picked that song instead of another one from that movie was up to that. The movie had a different mood and a different pacing.
Yeah.
And when that movie hits and he comes out and all the different voices Robin Williams does in that, and like just the whole energy of the entire movie changed from that point. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, there's a few moments down the road, but like that's where everything flipped, and that's where you realize that you were watching an incredible movie.
Yeah.
Instead of what it started out as, which was good, but it wasn't amazing to me until that happened.
Right.
So that was my number 3.
It's a great pick.
Aladdin is, I think, like any man around our age, from the window of age that the spectrum of age that we have on the show between Eric and Morgan, is Aladdin's your favorite because up until that point it was always like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast. All the women were the lead, which is great, and they should be. But it was like our first Disney movie where a man was like or a male young boy was the lead, and we all saw that and related to that a little bit more than Cinderella.
Right.
And
he wasn't a prince either, which was.
And he wasn't a prince.
Right.
Yep.
He was earning his way there. You know what I mean? Instead of
the hard way.
He earned it.
He got it, man. But he got it. You know what I mean? He got it.
Well, he got it. Eric, what's your number 3?
Wayne's World, the Queen, the scene with them in the car, is just one of the greatest scenes of all time. And people, as soon as Bohemian Rhapsody comes on, everybody in the world immediately thinks the scene with Wayne's World, where they're banging their heads and stuff. It just is. Mike Myers and Dana Carvey they nailed it. And it was absolutely comedic genius and one of the best scenes, one of the most memorable scenes of all time. And just so much fun.
He pulls out the tape and he goes, "How about a little bit?" What did he say? What does he say, Eric? He said he pulls out.
I can't remember. Yeah.
I know. He says, "I'll have to think about that," but
yeah. But it's so great. It's so great. So that was an easy. To me, that was easy. I was like, Wayne's World's got to be in there somewhere. So yeah,
that's a great one.
Yeah.
Mark.
All right. So my number 3, it's the very last scene of a movie, Fight Club.
Oh yeah.
The ending scene when, I guess spoiler. If you haven't seen it by now, it's on you.
Yeah, really.
when he's looking out the window and just seeing, what he created and what is happening and the building's collapsing, and it's playing that "Where's My Mind" song. It's just a great great song for that movie, that scene, and it's just another one of those iconic songs. When you hear it, I think of that movie every time, and it's just a very powerful scene.
Oh, so powerful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right, good pick. My number 3 is the twist and shout scene from Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah,
it's a great one.
It epitomizes kind of who I am in like when I get into show pony mode. Like when I have a little too many drinks of tequila, I get a little dancy, and it's just, this is, if you've ever seen me like that, then you can just watch Twist and Shout, or if you've never seen me like that, just watch Twist and Shout and Ferris Bueller. That's me.
Great pick. Great pick, man. Yeah.
All right, number 2 for Jason.
Okay, so the movie Kingsman, the first one, 2014. It is. I'm picking the church scene. If you've seen the church scene,
yes.
This is Colin Firth, and about like 100 or more incredibly awful, racist, homophobic, horrible. Like I don't even know what they're. This is like the church that shouldn't exist, kind of. and then Samuel L. Jackson,
one church,
right? Yep. Samuel L. Jackson's character Valentine. They activate the SIM cards, which I'm not going to explain that any further. But they do that. It takes over everybody, and everybody just starts killing everyone. But they're mainly doing these really cool long shots, where there's not a whole lot of. They're not really changing camera angles as constantly as they are actually just following it. So the choreography is like pretty long and drawn out and incredible, but they're playing Freebird on this, and it's a great scene. Dude, it is one of the coolest fight scenes I've ever seen, and the music has a lot to do with it for me.
Criminally underrated movie, man. That's a great.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a great call. Yeah,
it's an incredible one. So that's it. That's number 2.
All right.
Good job.
I'm going to switch it up and go to Morg.
Oh, all right. My number 2.
It's because he's always caught off guard.
Ready for that. My number 2 was Reservoir Dogs, the torture scene. That just that's just it's
stuck
one of those,
in the middle.
Yeah, when you hear that, and he's just he's just dancing and like torturing a guy, cutting his ear off. And, it's just a great scene of how like messed up these people are. That he's enjoying this, and there's just fun music to listen to while he does this, so he can dance and have fun. But it's a great scene, and I feel like a lot of movies tried to imitate that after that, and it's a Quentin Tarantino classic, and everything he does is good, and that scene is just awesome.
Okay, good call. That's one of my favorites also. We're at, what's his name, Michael
yes.
I can't think of what his last name is. Michael Madsen. Yeah, his character's such a son of a bitch in that movie, and he's just like, but he's like just torturing that cop, and you're like, oh my god, man, like, and he's having a blast, it just is, it's just this crazy. Okay, so my number 2, this one was actually a struggle, because I had 2 movies that I really wanted to put into this spot, and I think, Morgan, to kind of go with you, a lot of people don't watch a lot of animation stuff or Pixar stuff as much as they should. Pixar has a 100% record with me of making me tear up in just about every movie that they have, but I think the one that made me the most emotional was probably Michael Giacchino's Up. The bit where him and Ellie, it's about a 2-minute short film, basically, within the movie where he and Ellie have this life together, and the music that Michael Giacchino puts to them from when they're kids all the way until till she passes, and it's just emotionally just, and I mean, I've known this character for 30 seconds into this movie, you know, and I'm already like, well, if you wanted to end the movie right there, I'd be perfectly okay with it, you know. But Giacchino's music is so great in that, you know, because it takes them from all the highs of being a you know, and anybody who's at any relationship knows, you know, you have wonderful times and you have hard times, and the music takes you on that journey, and so yeah, so I will throw the other number 2 that I wanted in there just as a kind of honorable mention, if you will, but the end of Titanic, I think, is another emotionally my heart will go on. I mean, anybody who's seen that movie and doesn't get at least a little emotional about it is
right.
You know, when that boat sinks, and at the end when their ghosts are in the rotunda portion of it is just it's pretty emotional. So yeah, but I had to go with Up. I really did. So
okay. All right.
Yeah, great pick.
Good pick. My number 2 is is from Game of Thrones, and it's the Sept of Baelor scene where that gets blown up, and it's the Light of the Seven song.
Great.
It's about a 20-minute scene, so we're gonna play it right now.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll take a bathroom break.
Yeah, take a bathroom break. It is one of the just most incredible scenes in any piece of movies or TV, where builds and builds and builds and builds, and the music starts off kind of a little whimsically, a little bit, and then it just builds that tension, and it's the music that does it. And it's Ramin Djawadi, who is, you know, it's really hard not to put him in the top score. And we talked about going to like the Empire Strikes Back live. Eric and I took the wives to the concert, the Ramin Djawadi concert, which may have even been better than the like live version of Empire Strikes Back, because the guy is full of freaking talent, and he blew us away in that concert.
It was really cool.
It was amazing, and I cannot wait to have him have another concert, because he just, every song he plays a different instrument, and he's just incredible. But that Light of the Seven, it was just one of those scenes that the next day, the water cooler, everybody's talking about Cersei's revenge and blowing up the Sept of Baelor, and it's just, the music was the number one thing that everybody talked about, and it was just like, at the end, it's like building, and then blew us all away. So that was, I just remember watching that, being like, this music is getting me, and something bad's gonna happen. That was my number 2. So
That's
all right,
stuff.
number 1s. I'm gonna start with Eric, because I'm wondering if his number 1 is the same as me.
It probably is. Top Gun.
Oh, okay.
The opening scene to Top Gun, you know, where they
so freaking good.
You know, where you go from Harold Faltermeyer's score directly into Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone. It's just iconic, you know, and you have, plus in the background, you have the TF-30 engine on the F-14 Tomcat blowing a 90-foot afterburner, you know, flame out the back, and that Tomcat just goes, you know, as soon as they let the steam catapult go, the plane jumps down like that, and then just goes, and like it goes straight into it was into Danger Zone. You were like, oh my god, that was so awesome, because it just builds, you know, they just build
transition.
Yeah, it really is. And then you get that release, you know, and it's just like, okay, we are off, and you're gonna see just how awesome this thing is going to be. So that was a great combination of score and soundtrack together, plus the visuals to create, you know, for me, one of the most iconic scenes of all time with music and stuff put together to it. I will, again, another honorable mention for later on in the movie, if I don't say it my wife will kill me, is my wife loves the volleyball scene. She thinks that's one of the greatest scenes in all of
so, I think it's like the greatest scene,
and I don't yeah, I'm not gonna say it's not, so I mean, who doesn't want to?
I think they play football with the new one.
Yeah, I think that's so
it really, that's such an amazing pick, Eric. And the when you're reading they put the words up about the Top Gun, and it's like such a great story there. And then it combines, it combines score and soundtrack. It's like the perfect combination of what we've been talking about. So I love it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go to Morg for his number one, but
so
not the same pick, Eric, but we're going to bookend with you and me. So.
Okay, sounds great.
So I actually had a few in this number one slot that it was hard for me to pick. And then I said, you know what, well, I'll leave these three in here. Mm-hmm. And then if somebody else has one of them, I can go with one of the other ones, because that way to mix it up, because I did have Kingsman, the church scene in there.
Nice.
Nice. That's awesome.
I had the Days of Future Past Quicksilver scene. That's an awesome scene when they're doing it. But
Sweet Dreams. Sweet Dreams, or is that?
No, Time in the Bottle.
Sweet Dreams was the next.
The other one. So no, my number one that I'm going to go with out of those three, and I think this does kind of overtake those for me as well. It's a little bit surprise here, but I'm going to go with Coco. The Remember Me
such a
scene at the end.
You're gonna make me cry.
Yeah. Yep. Pixar, 100%. 100%.
Yep, trying not to make sure Hector doesn't be forgotten, and he's back and he's singing the song to his great grandma. I forget what, on that, trying to get her to remember. It's just it's such a powerful scene. And the song is perfect, and it plays into that. We all have that fear of, one, we don't know what's next. We don't want to be forgotten. And it's just fantastic. Yeah. If you walk out of there without feeling anything,
get some lotion. Get some lotion in your eye. Yeah. Lotion in my eye.
That's a great pick.
That is.
It's one of the most beautiful movies, just in general. Like, just visually, story, music. Mm-hmm. God, love that movie. Penny was on a Coco kick for a while, and it was one of those Pixar kicks, and I was like, I'm not sick of this movie yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude, that pick is actually, to me, it's cool, because it's such a good example of what music really is, right? Which is like something that has the ability to. I mean, that song, I cried listening to you talking about it. I didn't come on here to cry today. I'm kind of there almost twice. All right. But seriously, that song, man, that's what music can do. And that's what makes it such that's why I love it as much as I do. But,
well, what's your number one, Jason?
Oh man. So I went a whole different direction with this one. and I'm really glad. All right, Eric said Wayne's World, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
All right. But in Wayne's World, Garth, right, is in love with the dream girl.
Oh yes, dude. Yeah.
And they're in that diner, man.
Yes.
he goes into his little daydream about him approaching his dream girl, and he starts seeing Foxy.
Yeah.
He's air thrusting, and dude, I quote that song all the time, but I don't even feel like I'm quoting that song. I feel like I'm quoting Garth, doing. That's one. I don't know why. That's one of the funniest things. And of course, I was probably in middle school
as a young boy. That scene.
Yeah, it came out to me and I've had a thing for blondes my entire life. Married one, and him going after her. I was like, I get that, man. I get what you're doing. And that song, killed it for me, man. So
every time I watch this,
all three of them,
I cannot believe I don't know. I'd love to know how many times they filmed that scene, because how do you not just crack up every time you watch Dana Carvey do that? And it's,
I don't know.
I feel like there are some people who are like laughing as they go by, and it's just his little like.
The way he is.
He like subtly lips Foxy Lady.
Right.
He like pops up. He's just like,
it's just so good.
And then of course I give all credit to that song too. I mean, Jimi Hendrix was something special, right? So
for sure,
really cool song. But that was just such a funny and fun scene to me. So
great pick, man.
That's the end of mine. I'm glad that you decided to bookend it with the two of you, because I feel like in the middle there is where that belongs. But
no, it's great.
It really is.
It's a memorable scene. And really, that's the beauty of this whole podcast is really each of us have our own values, like, and things that like mean this much to us, and it's not one or the other, and so the fact that I love that Wayne's World is in the top three for
awesome.
more than just me, but so it's just such a great one. And there's great music in that top to bottom. Great music in
the
it.
whole thing.
The Wayne's World has been a bit of an influence on this entire podcast.
Right. Yeah.
It to have it there is great. And what you mean by like music is meaningful to us, and it's supposed to elicit emotion in a way that nothing else can.
Sure.
And for my number one, it's something we've talked about on this show. It's just probably no surprise, but there was a scene in a little tiny movie called Avengers Endgame.
I knew this was coming.
Of course.
I have to stay true to myself in this and put the portal scene number one.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about that scene that is bad. That scene I can watch it over and over again. Again, recently watched it with Penny. She turned to me, she goes, "That's such a cool scene." And I was just like, this is the proudest moment of my life, kind of thing. But when it pans away, like they were like showed everybody, the music was doing great, and then it pans away, and it gives like the view from the top, and it's scanning all the heroes, and the music at that point from Alan Silvestri, again, one of the composers who it's hard to not have him on. He's the Back to the Future composer. How did I not have that as my number one? But it's just, and then it's just the way it ends with them running at each other. It's just my entire childhood toy childhood in one actual scene. And the music, I mean, Kevin Feige had to go to Alan Silvestri and say, "Listen, we have a scene that's going to make boys cry and men cry, and they're going to relate to it to their childhood. I need you to like be on your game." And he was like, "I got just the thing." He wrote the world's song, and it's incredible. So,
and when it pauses, so he could say "assemble," and then it's like, all right.
When it's doing that pull away scene and that part of the song going, and he's like, "Avengers," and it's coming. Finally, I've been waiting for 10 years.
Right.
We haven't got the Avengers assembles the line, and he just gets me on there. Assemble. It's just like. Thank you, guys. That was a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah, it was good.
Music is, as Jason, you put it perfectly. It's just like you're willing to. That's what it means to you, is you're willing to sacrifice other things. And with music, we'll talk more music in this show as we go on, but this was a lot of fun. So let's get to the nerd box. We've got 2 questions. I'm gonna due to time constraints take one and pass it off. But with Jason on the show, he submitted a question a few weeks ago that we have to have Eric on the show, and then we have to have me on the show. So I'm actually going to let you read the question, Jason.
Yeah.
You're reading it to us. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll answer it from there. Okay.
All right. So the question is, with the stipulation that no force wielding is allowed, who would win in a ship battle between Picard's Galaxy class USS Enterprise D or a capital ship from Star Wars universe, such as Grand Admiral Thrawn, whom I call Thrawn Jeremy, and his ship, the Chimera, or Grand Moff Tarkin's Executrix, and why? So who's going to win that battle?
Well, Eric, you get to
I
go.
feel like this was rigged. This is a rigged question to make Star Trek look bad. This is
to make it hurt.
Love it when a plan comes together.
They are. I will say that they are designed and built for two separate purposes. So, that being said, the primary function of a starship is exploration and not combat, although they are equipped for combat. Whereas the Imperial ships are built to be combat vehicles. So that being said, the Star Wars stuff would definitely wipe out the Star Trek stuff. So but I have a feeling that the maneuverability, even though it's still a big ship, the Enterprise and stuff, significantly more maneuverable. They probably put up a pretty decent fight, but at the end, I think there's just too much firepower to overcome. So.
I think I don't want you to overlook the fact that when it comes to the Star Trek crew, though, they've gone up against other enemies that are relatively this powerful. So it really comes down more to like their wit and their and the way that the cast or the crew manages to actually handle those situations, right?
Yeah,
so it's not just as simple to me as the ships, because I think you're right. If it's just ship to ship, hands down. Yeah,
there are tactics and stuff that you could do that could potentially do it, but I think if you're just looking ship to ship, without ramming your ship into the bridge of the other one, which
do it, man.
Hey, what you do, you got to do, So, yeah, it just it is. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. That's my answer. So,
hey, Darren.
Grand Admiral Thrawn's Chimera is the best ship in Star Wars.
Yes,
it's unstoppable. Even
awesome.
Even I would say making it even the top ship is it being Grand Admiral Thrawn himself on it. Yes, he's the ultimate general in the Star Wars universe. He knows his opponents better than anybody, and he uses that to his advantage. And I think he kind of is what makes it just that much better.
Mm-hmm.
Mark?
Fair.
Yeah, no, agree. Agreed with all of it. Yeah. Right. No, I mean, I'm more of a Star Wars guy than a Star Trek guy. My Star Trek is the new movies. Right. But I think if we're talking a pure fight where they've got nowhere to go, this is it. But it's only one's coming out of the cage alive.
This does bring up an interesting question, though, Eric. What's the best Enterprise? What's been the most powerful Enterprise? You're on mute. Muted.
Got him. Still muted. This is your first time doing Zoom, Eric? Come on.
Loaded question. Well, I was actually, I've gotten annoyed with myself with my loud keyboard, so I started muting myself when I type anything in because I'm tired of hearing about it in the past. My favorite, probably not the best, is I actually really loved the E version, which is the one that was in kind of the later movies. You got that one. It premiered in First Contact was when that one, because in the D was all through the TV show of the Next Generation that had the big saucer at the front, and then that one gets destroyed in the first movie, the Generations movie that they had. So I really liked the E. I thought it was a great looking ship. It was powerful. It was slick. It was fast. If you look, depending on which timeline you go through in Enterprise, history, because there's a couple of different timelines that kind of pop up, but MCU is not the only one to do a multiverse type stuff. But there are versions of the Enterprise where they had, you know, a Klingon battle that kind of came along, and they amped up the D into like a super battle cruiser, and that one was pretty badass, you know. But just from a sheer size perspective, you know, I mean, the Chimera, that's one of the things I was looking at while I muted myself, was the Chimera is like 1,600 meters long, you know, and the Enterprise is
like
is
the Spaceball ship.
It's just a simple matter of size, you know, that's out there. So it's just I don't know, you know, it's like a
that all makes sense. I definitely hearing you say amped up the D made it worth asking that question altogether.
We all love amping up the D.
Well, yeah.
We had a lot of
Size matters. Amp up the D.
Size of the D matters and amp up the D.
Guys
Men like to do.
You guys are disgusting.
I know. Sorry, I'll probably never grow up.
PG-13, will you?
That's what happens when you watch adult cartoons.
Right.
What happens?
That threw me off so much. I didn't even know what to say anymore.
It's all good. You know what,
Yeah.
Jason?
Great, dude.
You fit right in.
Exactly. You fit right in. It's exactly what this show is all about. Is coming on here and a bunch of dudes having fun with a bunch of dudes. So
Yeah, this is amazing, guys. Thank you.
we have enjoyed having you on. I'm speaking for everybody in that sense, but I'm definitely speaking for myself.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm sure they all feel the same. Jason and I go back a little bit. We work together at a company called Home Advisor.
Mm-hmm.
He's Jason. You're not only like the inspiration for our song, or not the inspiration for our song, but the reason for our song, but you're also my inspiration for my love of Henleys. I have a Henley for every day of the week, and now you're wearing a Henley in this podcast, and it's just I saw that, I was like, man, I gotta mention that my reason for my love of Henleys.
I'm glad I've done something great with my life.
You've inspired. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for our song. Thank you so much for coming on. You fit right in. You are definitely invited on this show for whenever you want to come back.
Man, thank you. This was amazing. I love doing this. I'm of course ready to do it again. So let me know.
Hell yeah. And it's good to be back on the show. I took a week off last week. Eric and Morgan guys did a great job last week. Thank you for filling in my tiny shoes. You guys did a great job and made me laugh and broke down the zombie genre in a way I didn't really think you could, and you did a great job. Not for a topic I'm not a big fan of. I really enjoyed listening to you guys talk about zombies. So great. I salute you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And you know, music and movies and TV shows, it's what a great topic. I loved hearing everybody's lists and talking about that. And next week we have a really big show because we're gonna have Disney Plus Day. So if you like superheroes, it's going to be a big superhero show next week because we're going to get a lot of trailers for Star Wars. We're going to get a trailer for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I can't wait for that. We're going to get a Mandalorian season 3 sizzle reel. We're going to get Bad Batch trailer. We're going to get Andor trailers. And then on the Marvel side, we're probably going to get a Spider-Man trailer this week. We're going to get a first look at Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness. We might get some Black Panther Wakanda Forever stuff. Thor Love and Thunder, might get a teaser for that. I cannot wait for this day. It will be a super nerd out kind of day, and we're going to cover it all on the rundown. So stay tuned next week for all that. And with that being said, again, thank you, Jason. Love you guys. I love y'all. And we'll see you next week on the Nerd Rundown.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.